All right. And we are live. Always wanted to say that. This is being recorded live. I will ask a couple times if you guys can hear me, just making sure that the microphone and all that is working properly. And if you are watching this as a recording, you do not have to post in the comments that you can hear just fine. The idea is that we should figure this out during the live show so that the recording afterwards works. For those of you who are new here, my name is Ilya, and I'm the self-proclaimed Dark Lord of Optics. Today's conversation is mostly not going to be about optics. I want to talk a little bit about politics, election aftermath, and certain takeaways. Maybe try to offer a somewhat less emotional point of view than I keep on seeing online and from a lot of conservatives. And think a little bit about the path forward and what's going to happen next and what the next 4 years may look like. And we'll go from there. Once I open things up to a Q&A, we can, of course, go into anything you guys want, optics, knives, mounts, guns, more politics, or anything that comes to mind. If this is something that is within my range of interest, I'll be happy to talk about it. As always, do keep in mind, with optics, I am something of an expert. With other fields, not so much, but I find things that are interesting and tend to study them deeply, so perhaps it'll be of some use to you, right? Let's see. All right, Morocco. Let's do Morocco. What do you want to know about Morocco, Joe? And no, I'm probably not going to talk about Morocco. I don't know too many things about Morocco. Okay, so we've got, what, about a dozen viewers or thereabouts. That's good. And we can get going. A couple of general purpose announcements. I moved recently, and right before I moved, I received a large box of t-shirts that I made, just like the t-shirts I have, with sizes from small to triple extra large. A while back on the community boards, a bunch of people told me they are interested, but it was a while back. So I uncovered the box, and I can send them out if you guys are interested. If you are, shoot me an email at swag@darklordofoptics.com. The email on the bottom of the screen. Tell me what sizes you want and where you are, so I can figure out the shipping costs and stuff like that. Normally, the t-shirts are going to be $20 each plus whatever shipping. If it's more than one, shipping is cheaper per shirt. If you are a member, a supporting member, either on Locals or on YouTube, please tell me when you send an email. That's a little bit of a different ballgame. All right. Anyhow, with that out of the way, let us move on. Okay, so I'm glad to see questions come in. Let me do this. If you don't mind sticking around, I'm going to do my general purpose political rant that I've been thinking about for a while. And after that, I'll go through and address address the questions as they go along. Thank you for joining. I really do appreciate it. The way I do the live streams, some are open to everyone like this one. Some I will restrict to just members only. Ultimately, I would like the content to be available to everyone, but what happens is that the ones that I open up to everyone tend to run for a very long time. So depending on how much time I have, it can vary. It also really depends on whether I have any guest speakers or not. Obviously, the live streams where I'm alone tend to be shorter, Today, there may be a couple other gun bloggers who will join me for the discussion later, but we'll see. I did not look to schedule anything significant. After today, I am looking to do one more live stream before the end of the year, probably 21st or 22nd of December. And I want to, on that one, I want to revisit air guns. I am really interested in big bore air guns, so I've got an Air Force Texan and 50 cal coming my way. Should be here in a couple of days. And I am going to bring back Tyler Patner, who is a world-class field target shooter, and he works for Pyramid Air. And I want to pick his brain a bit more about big bore air guns. And at that point, I should have a better idea of what optics work best for them and things like that. So I want to pick Tyler's brain and then talk a little bit about optics for large caliber air guns. Okay. Hey, Mr. Shooting Gallery, how are you, sir? Yes, that's correct. Not subscriber. So YouTube does this subscription and membership. If you look under my videos, there is a subscribe button and there is a join button. Join button basically means you are paying some amount of money per month. There are different membership levels and all that, and that gives you some perks. Okay, one of the perks is that as we go along, more and more of the live casts and other things are going to be so that the comments and the questions will be members only. And I'm basically trying to slowly restrict how much time different things take. I am at the point where I get so many questions through the variety of different channels that I am not able anymore to answer everything as well as I would like. So I am beginning to switch to the subscription membership model, both on locals and YouTube, so that we can segregate a little bit between people who really want to know the answer to their question versus people who are just asking questions. Boy, did that sound wrong, but it is what it is. Okay, Mr. Shooting Gallery is gonna hopefully hop into the shower and then after the shower, hopefully not during the shower, hop onto the live cast with us. I gave him a link so he can join it. Okay. So please put questions in the comments. I'll go through everything after I'm done with my rant. And let's talk politics. Politics requires drinking. Today we've got a wonderful Japanese whiskey and some iced tea if I get dehydrated. And my lights just went out. Hold on. Okay. So if you hear all the stuff in the background, that's my kids who don't take no for an answer, don't realize that this is live and with a microphone. All right. All right. Fellow gun bloggers. Okay, Northwest Gun Reviews is also going to be jumping on shortly. Excellent. Okay. So we had a presidential election. If you guys remember, on Slav Gun's channel, we had a very, very long live cast for the election. It looked like Trump was winning, and then all of a sudden, Biden was winning. And now it looks like we're going to have Biden-Harris presidency, more like Harris presidency, for the next 4 years. The lawsuits are going to be going on for a little while longer, but it is increasingly... It was increasingly looking likely that Biden is going to move into the White House for 5-6 minutes before he abdicates. And abdicates is not the right word for presidents. It's a word used for monarchies. But in this case, the way Democrats view the office of the president, I think it's relevant. Then Biden is going to step aside, and we are going to have 4 years of Kamala Harris, which is really not something I am looking forward to in any way, shape, or form. But it is what it is. Before I get lynched, for saying that. Let's talk a little bit about the allegations of election fraud and things like that. Did fraud happen? Yes, absolutely. Most certainly, there's enough evidence that it did happen. Is there enough evidence of fraud to give Donald Trump a second term in the White House? Maybe, but I have a strong suspicion that from a legal standpoint, there isn't enough. There is this outstanding lawsuit by Texas against Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin about election irregularities and all that. And that's probably our best case to get our best case to get something going, but it is a little bit of a long shot. I think all the careful look into the elections and how we vote and all that is really, really, really critical, but not so much for the presidential election in this case. But I really want all of this crap tramped down and resolved and figured out the best we can before the election, before the midterm election in 2 years. If there is a if there is in okay, could you guys give me a moment, please? So I can hear Daniel so well in the microphone. Can't hear me. Can hear Daniel just great. Shh. I think this was the first time of me yelling at my kids on air. Probably not the last. But anyhow, where was I? Yeah. If there was a serious conspiracy, it was a spectacularly incompetent conspiracy because overall, down ticket, Republicans did quite well. If the conspiracy, voting conspiracy, was specifically against Trump, but not against the Republicans overall, it doesn't make a ton of sense. On top of it, widespread conspiracies don't work. They are fun to read about and fun to think about. They make for great fiction literature, but they really don't work. When you have too many people involved in any sort of a illegal endeavor like that, something leaks, right? That's how we know about all the different mafia groups and stuff like that. It's virtually impossible to have a conspiracy that is so widespread, involves so many people, and yet there's no concrete evidence. Right? We see some votes reached here and there. There are some whistleblowers that are that are showing that a suitcase of votes was pulled out from under the desk and all that sort of stuff. To pull that kind of stuff off, you need so many people involved because there are multiple states and multiple locations that I can't believe that it was all kept in secret. Is there bias against conservatives and Republicans within the deep state? Oh yeah, absolutely. Is that enough? And nobody talked, nobody bragged to his friends over beer? I find that hard to believe. Now, to be fair, conspiracies are impossible to, large-scale conspiracies are impossible to maintain when you have media doing some sort of investigative journalism, right, and uncovering these things. In this case, the mainstream media that we have is basically the PR, public relations arm for the Democratic party. They're not even hiding it anymore, right? And it's entirely possible there were significant leaks and stuff like that they just shut off, tramped down, and made sure they never see the light of day. It is theoretically possible, but I still find it not terribly likely. The part of this whole conspiracy business that I find most interesting is the business with the software in the voting machines. The details of the allegations that was developed for Venezuela by Venezuela and all that sound weird to me, but if I were looking to rig an election, I'd be doing it through the voting machine software. It is really, really easy to conceal some funky arithmetic within a voting machine software. And you can do this in all sorts of very clever ways. The ways that we see, when they show the plot of votes being tallied and all of a sudden there's a huge jump for Biden and all that. If the software was rigged to do that, they are complete imbeciles, right? Because you can rig this thing so that every vote for Biden counts as 1.05 votes, for example, right? And then you just have steady things now sudden jumps, and you can hide it in the code, and nobody will ever find it. You can, add a multiplier here, a multiplier there. I'm not convinced this sudden jumps and reversal of votes is in a software. That's not how I would do it, right? So I'm a pretty decent engineer, and I worked with a lot of different things over the years. When I think about rigging, how would I rig an election? I'd do it through the software in the voting machines, and I'd do it in a much more subtle way. Okay. The fact that the election results only look weird in the presidential, but down ticket Republicans absolutely kicked ass, to me makes widespread significant fraud unlikely. However, elections and voting have to be clean. This stuff has to be investigated, has to be figured out, and has to be found. And even if they do not find everything, this effort that we're doing to uncover all this stuff has to be so comprehensive, so widespread, that the fraudsters end up running scared for their lives for the next 8 decades. Okay? So this has to be investigated. And that's my basic point. Now, if I'm wrong, and I need to look at the comments, I'm sure somebody's telling me that I'm wrong. If I am wrong, and we can show that this was obviously tilted toward Biden in a fraudulent way, then it's a different ballgame. And if we investigate this the right way, all of this will be uncovered. Now, if you want to step back from the actual election day and think about the election, well, the big tech and the mainstream media leaned on the scales of the elections quite heavily. As we well know, any stories damaging to Biden or Kamala Harris were suppressed. Anything beneficial to Trump was suppressed. Any accomplishment of Trump's administration was either not reported on or distorted. COVID coverage was absolutely ridiculous, blaming Trump for all mortal sins. The election was clearly influenced. And in many ways, the election was rigged, but in a way that is really not illegal, because these are private companies and they can do more or less whatever the hell they want. My biggest issue with this is that they still call themselves journalists, and they shouldn't. Hopefully the Mainstream media, the way we know it, is dying off, and we will see new media emerge that does this better. But I have my doubts. That having been said, I'm less concerned about mainstream media than I am about big tech. The influence that Facebook, Google, Apple, Twitter, and others had on the election has been tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. How many votes worth? I don't know. Had we had normal media, Trump would have likely won running away. Had we not had COVID, Trump would have likely won running away. If I were to try to isolate what really truly affected this election as much as it did, I would say COVID and COVID-related policies and COVID coverage is what ultimately is going to end up getting Biden and Harris into the Oval Office. I think that's what it's ultimately going to boil down to. The coverage of COVID has been so dishonest, and the political ramifications of it, at least in blue states, lockdowns and all that, have been so heavy-handed and honestly just brain dead and blatantly stupid that it is something that is bringing down Donald Trump now, but is ultimately quite likely, at least possibly likely, going to bring the resurgence of the center-right of this country. And fundamentally, America is a center-right country. What started really pushing it to the left more than anything else has been the left's control and dominance of Hollywood, mainstream media, and most critically, the Department of Education. We are, about couple generations in from when American educational system was transformed from education to basically miseducation, right? If you want to talk about conspiracies, the only large-scale conspiracy that I honestly believe in is the American educational system, right? It is designed to take genuinely intelligent kids and make them into imbeciles. I'm not going to get too much into it. I think you've heard my rant on the subject when I first came here. I came to America when I was 15 years old. I could not understand that they put me into a school for retarded children, right? But there was this incongruency there in a sense that the kids were perfectly normal, but what they were studying was just, I don't know. I grew up during the collapse of the Soviet Union, right? And we didn't have teachers for a year or two here and there. It was pretty bad. But what they were studying in a perfectly normal, reasonably well-funded, reasonable area high school in Los Angeles was, 3-4 years behind what they were studying in a Soviet freaking school during the collapse of the whole country. It was embarrassing, really, right? So what we're dealing with, right, in many cases, what we're dealing with, this leftward shift of the American populace to a good degree is a product of the insanity of the American educational system. People now, all the small business world, everybody now in the blue states who is suffering so badly from the lockdowns and the absolute tyranny of the left-wing politicians, are beginning to wake up. And I'm hoping that this same thing that at first brought down Donald Trump, that same heavy-handed measures, will eventually create a resurgence of center-right politicians, where now we have hard left politicians. As much as I supported Trump presidency, I think in many ways it is more important to be anti-socialist, anti-hard left than pro-Trump. Because the future of the country depends on our repudiation of leftism and all of its evil, maliciousness, toxicity, everything that the hard left represents. Trump by himself is a fairly controversial figure. I'm much happier with the policies of the Trump administration than with the rhetoric of the man. But the rhetoric of the man doesn't matter to me all that much. All politicians say funky things. I don't really pay attention. I think Peter Thiel said it the best, that Trump detractors take him literally, but not seriously. And Trump supporters take him seriously, but not literally. And I am the latter, right? I am not on Twitter. I don't follow his Twitter feed. I don't take a lot of these things he says terribly seriously. But on the big things, on the big issues, Trump tends to be right. I think he tends to be correct. And he gets himself into trouble when he gets into details and says something stupid. If you look at the different demographics, the demographic that hurt Trump the most was, I think, suburban women. And if I were to make a guess, I would say that he lost this demographic because he is personally unpleasant to them. And because for this subset of the demographic, they used to call them security moms. George W. Bush won them, interestingly. For this demographic, the left's rhetoric about COVID is going to get us all, unscientific, incompetent rhetoric, plus Trump's personal unattractiveness, was enough to give Biden-Harris presidency. Not because Biden and Harris were so good for them, but because they were not Trump. Okay. Okay. All right. We've got a good number of comments going on. I'll go through everything. I have a couple more minutes in my spiel. Okay, shooting gallery here. Sorry, man. You're live now. I didn't see you before.
It's all good, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. So let me finish my spiel, and I'll let you chime in, and we'll look at the comments. All right?
Of course.
Okay. So, assuming that my worst fears are going to come true, and we are in for 4 years of Kamala Harris as a president, what is the kind of harm that they can do? What should we be looking for that's going to be pretty nasty for the next 4 years? And my basic assumption is that in 4 years, Republicans are going to retake the White House back, because what the left is doing now, there will be payback. Okay. And let's see. There we go. I'm going to make it smaller. There will be payback. I'm going to go ahead and assume. So in the House of Representatives, the Democrats still have the majority, but it's a much weaker majority than it used to be. The Senate is where the fun stuff is going to happen. The fate of the Senate depends on the two senators in Georgia. There are two runoff elections. If you're in Georgia, please pay attention. Please go vote. The Senate is going to be important. Whatever agenda Biden and Harris are planning to have, they will not be able to do anything legislatively if the Republicans hold the Senate. Aside from political differences and all that, they will be held to pay for the Democrats, partly because good luck trying to negotiate with Mitch McConnell when he is pissed about how this election has been going on. So we have to assume that where they're able to do the most harm is in the fields where the president has the ability to act without the Congress, right? The first and foremost of those would be foreign policy. That's where the president really has the most latitude to do things. So we can expect more crap happening in the Middle East. Trump with Kushner and Bibi Netanyahu managed to bring some measure of peace and peace deals to the Middle East. And I fully expect that Biden and Harris are going to try to re-enter the Iran deal and further screw things up. However, I seriously doubt that they will be able to drive any sort of a significant wedge between Israel and Israel's new Arab allies, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, probably soon Saudi Arabia, a few others. I think that process is going to continue now that it has started. And partly because if Iran becomes even further emboldened with Kamala Harris in the White House, that will only drive the Gulf Arabic states and Israel closer together, because their common enemy is going to be Iran. And also because they will be, well, just like me, waiting for the next election, because I think everybody understands that Biden-Harris thing will not last for more than 4 years. It just won't. And because there's going to be a price to pay for what's happening now. Okay, where else can they do a ton of harm? Well, one of the best things that Trump did was try to get critical race theory and the rest of the leftist racist nonsense out of the educational system, out of the training for federal employees and things like that. We can expect this extreme intersectional political correctness and new age leftist races. We can expect all of that to come back and be with us for the next 4 years. I don't think we have any means to stop that. On the other hand, if they bring all of that crap back, that will only serve to make sure that all these lunatics are going to be out of the White House in 4 years. At least that's my best guess. For people like me who have small children, my kids are 7 and 9. This is exceedingly bad news. Schools are pretty suckish as is. I mean, where my kids go is okay. It's, we have to supplement. And for people like us, who work, we can't homeschool. So if you can send your kids to a charter school or a private school or something that is not a hard leftist indoctrination camp, try to do so. But I do expect that they will come down hard on charter schools. Charter schools will be really hurt. Okay. And I will finish this by one simple observation. If you want to know who organization that played the most part in rigging this election, look at the different parts of the country and look at the voting records. When I talk to people and ask them which state had the largest margin pro-Biden of all the states that Biden won, usually people say, Hawaii or California or Delaware, whatever, the left-wing states. That's actually not the case. By far, the largest pro-Biden margin in the country was Washington, D.C. The people who work for the federal government, the bureaucrats, not the military, not the cops, right? The bureaucrats who work for the military government voted at approximately 90%, if I remember correctly, 90, for Biden. If you ever doubted that deep state exists and hates conservatives, you need to look no further than that. 90% of Washington, D.C. voted for Biden. Always keep that in mind. So anything you can think of that you can do to decrease the power of these lunatics might be worth doing. Okay. All right. Rant off. All right. Mr. Shooting Gallery New England, you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. My name's Joe. I run a YouTube channel called Shooting Gallery New England. I'm a firearms-based YouTube channel where I focus on gunsmithing. I have a podcast every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do some kind of top 5 builds, kind of a little bit of everything, gun presentations. I wouldn't call myself a reviewer. I'm a gunsmith by trade, so I try to go over some gunsmithing tools for every firearm enthusiast out there that likes to work on their own stuff and let you know what tools suck and what don't. An occasional rant here and there.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out the controls here. I thought it was making you bigger and me smaller. That didn't work. That didn't work either. Okay. All right. Before we start digging through the comments, you heard part of my spiel.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to add? Any take on elections? Anything where I'm full of shit?
I agree with you on almost 100%. I'd probably say 80% of it. Definitely, I think they're going to mess up I think if the Democrats, if Biden does get in, he'll, pardon my language, but he'll fuck up a lot of things in 4 years to where they will, Republicans will retain the House, but, more gun control is been fallen under Republican administrations than Democrats. Like, yes, they have the 94 assault weapons ban and stuff like that, but Reagan had the machine gun ban. Bush Sr. had the import ban. It's just a lot of Trump had the bump stock ban. A lot of anti-gun legislation has been falling under Republicans, so we can't fall on our swords on that. But I still have a sliver of hope that Trump will get out of the Supreme Court where he gets a second term. Even if you don't really pay attention that much to politics, I think there's clear-cut signs of fraud. I personally think, and this is my tinfoil hat opinion, that it was a sting operation. I really think it was.
So I'm not going to argue with that because you may very well be right. But clear and apparent is not the same as legally provable.
Exactly. And that's
Right.
where I say you and I would disagree. Clear and apparent, but can you prove that within a court of law? That's where the argument comes in.
Yeah, and that's going to get rough. But no matter what happens, I want this investigation. Like I said, I want all these 3-letter agencies, I want them running scared, half of them retired, with tails between their legs, because these fuckers. And it's not the rank and file. I know a lot of people that are in the rank and file. Something happens to them once they get up high enough, right? Same thing as happens with politicians, I guess. Even the best of them, they get in office for a term, but two terms in, they are the same corrupt assholes as the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, power corrupts, and it seems like in all the 3-letter agencies, the same thing happens once they get up high enough and they get a taste of power. It's very hard to say no. It's something that's just hard to resist.
It sucks, but you know what? I think this is the time when we really need to rally together. If we can at least rally together to retain the Senate in Georgia, then we have a fighting chance to where I would rather have 4 years of a stalemate in terms of gun rights, but also your point to charter schools. I'm a product of a charter school. I went to charter schools.
Okay, hold on 1 sec. Derek, you're making sound, so I muted you for a moment while Joe's talking. I'll unmute you momentarily, okay? Oh, you're unmuted. There you go.
I'm a product of charter schools. My public education.
Maybe I should take everything nice I said about charter schools back then.
Oh no, I agree. I know for a fact that my school was an indoctrination camp, but it's if you take that aspect out of it, it would be very good for a kid like me. I was bullied profusely in my public school system, and they didn't do shit for me. Right. I wasn't able to. I literally could not read till I was in 7th grade.
Wow.
So when I went to the charter school system, We had smaller classrooms. My teachers actually cared. They weren't just trying to teach for the test. And that's what I think kids need nowadays. Now it's just you have to decide what curriculum is either being forced down their throats, what ideology is being forced down their throats, and that's where the indoctrination camp comes in. So if you take that out of it, a charter school can be very well for kids like me who really don't have that education block,
So I should probably qualify my comments about charter schools. Why charter schools are a good idea. So from a standpoint of leftist indoctrination, you can be indoctrinated just as well in charter schools. We have family members, a kid who went to one of the fanciest private high schools in the country that was more Marxist crap than any public school. The reason why charter schools and private schools are important is that they do not have a requirement to be unionized. To teach in a public school, you have to be part of one of two major teachers' unions. To teach in a charter school, you don't have to, and most of them are not. One of the weirdly most powerful malicious forces in modern-day American politics are the two teachers' unions. Almost nothing harms education more than teachers' unions. Okay, and if you look up the largest by membership unions in the country, you will notice that out of top 5, I think 3 are public government employees, and I think the first and the 5th, or the first and the 4th, are teachers' unions. If you think that does not give them tremendous political power and tremendous power to ruin education, you're deluding yourself. Okay. The way the educational program works, a lot of that comes from the Department of Education. That should just be disbanded. The program should be defined by the states. There's no compelling reason to have federal standards. That's a bunch of nonsense. And Democrats as guilty of that as Republicans, right? But what should be most critical in many ways is that you want to delegate as much of this to local control as you possibly can, because you cannot teach the same way in inner city school in Compton as you teach in Bel Air. Okay, you can't teach differently, and most importantly, you should not teach the same, and you don't have to teach the same. This whole business is that we'll fuck up everybody equally is just wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
Support the smart kids, educate the stupid ones as well as you can. But if you are putting 60% of your effort into making smart kids stupid, future is not looking good. Okay. Ostensibly, they're trying to be fair, so everybody is the same. You cannot have everybody the same. Okay? You just can't, and you shouldn't. Everybody has the same opportunity. But if somebody can do more, if a kid can do more, he has to be able to do more. My son gets yelled at because he reads ahead of the class in his book because he likes reading. Bad genes, How's this okay? Right? I can tell you some other time. I can tell you some stories of me in American high school. That was interesting.
Yeah, but what I'm seeing this, because again, I work at a shop now, and from probably I started in I think I want to say I started in like September. From September to now, it's been nonstop. Like today, you could not up until I was actually teaching a class today on basic gun cleaning, because we have a lot of new firearms owners out there, and a lot of them don't know how to clean their guns or even take their guns apart. And every single one of them said, "I'm a new gun owner. I want to be prepared." One of them was a LGBTQ member.
Mm-hmm.
Openly admitted that she used to be part of a gay anti-gun geared group called something against guns, whatever, and did all this stuff. And then she realized, you know what? I'm not against guns. I'm for guns. I'm against bad people with guns. And I'm like, okay. And like I heard her out, and I didn't want to just jump down her throat because again, it's education more than anything else. And Made a lot of sense. She wasn't really turning anti-gun. I think she was just this indoctrination. But the happiness I saw in those 4 elderly women tonight, you couldn't I could not begin to say we need people like that, and I do want to go a little bit on a rant here. If you're a new firearm owner and you're at a gun shop that decides to tell you just because you're an elderly woman you need a Bodyguard 380, walk out of that shop and never return. Bodyguard 380 suck. I'm throwing this out there. Change my mind. Oh, this poor woman had a used Bodyguard 380. She didn't know how to. She didn't know how to take it apart because it was just some trash. But that was my rant. But yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna unmute Derek. Let him introduce himself, and see if he wants to add something, and then we'll go through the comments. There's a good stuff there.
Good evening, everybody. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing well, brother. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. A couple hours worth of sleep today, and had to do a bunch of stuff around town. But I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with sufficient offensive, sarcastic remark, but nothing's coming. So keep talking. I'll have some pictures.
You always do. Okay, so what are we talking about?
So I did a lengthy rant about politics, elections, aftermath, and stuff like that. I think you missed that, so there's no need to rehash it. There are some politically related questions in the comments.
Okay.
So we'll just, I think that will bring up the important points, and I'll start going through them. Anyhow, so guys, if you haven't seen Derek's or Joe's YouTube channel, Joe's podcast, please check them out. I'll put the links in the description of the video after we're done with the live cast. Right?
Actually, Jared's got a really good question here.
I'm gonna put questions up on the screen in the order in which they've been coming in. Jared usually has good stuff. Let's see. What do we have? Okay. I've got an optics question here. I'm gonna address it very, very quickly, and then we'll move on. Because I told people the Q&A will touch on anything: politics, guns, optics. So we'll just go through it in order in which it was received.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, guys. Ramsey, so F-class. It depends how much money you have. The best F-class scope is March, and nothing else is like it. March is a company, they have their strengths and their weaknesses. F-class stuff is where they started. I mean, they rock there. Best for the money is a different ballgame. I really like the Delta Striker 5-50, but it's not March. It's not as good as March. It's very good for the money. It's not as good as March. If you want the best, March High Master. Yeah, go ahead.
I think a good entry level F-class scope is the Vortex Golden Eagle.
It is very good. I did a side by side with Vortex Golden Eagle, Delta 5-50, and Citron S5. They were all at 1,500 to 2,000, I think. They're all quite good. In terms of ease of use, Citron has it. In terms of versatility, bang for the buck, I think it's a Striker. There's nothing wrong with the Golden Eagle. My basic problem with the Golden Eagle was that they tried to make it light, and they kept objective to 52 millimeters because of it. Once you start going up in high magnification, yeah, it hurts you. Like, the optical quality is pretty good, but the too tight of an exit pupil does hurt you compared to the 10 to 50 by 60 millimeter Citron S5. Made a difference. But nothing wrong with the Golden Eagle. Yeah, if that's what you like, it's a good scope. But like I said, I tested those 3 scopes and ended up keeping the Delta Striker 5-50 because it was just a little bit easier to use. Well, but all 3 are good.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. Okay, you know what? Let's leave this. This is a lengthy answer. Remind me, guys. We'll come back to this a little bit later. Let's do the easy stuff first. I have a lot of mileage with the scout rifle concept, to put it mildly. So let's come back to this. No, that's not how it works. So that's actually exactly my point. Small-scale conspiracies involving two government officials and some sleight of hand is not the same thing as a large-scale conspiracy. Large-scale conspiracy consists of a lot of small-scale conspiracies, and you can't have all of them go undetected. They're just not how this stuff works. So for Derek's benefit, I talk a lot about conspiracies and how I would rig the election if I was looking to do it. Okay, Lei is a new member. Thank you, Lei. Thank you for joining. Exactly. Yeah, I'm very much with you. If I were to hide this, I wouldn't even hide it in software so much. I'd hide it in a chipset firmware. There is something in there. All you need is a couple of switches going back in and out, and you're done. Somewhere in digital code. Okay. So, Derek, my basic argument was that conspiracy is terribly difficult to hide. But if I were looking to rig an election, I'd do it in the code. I'd do it in the voting machine software because it's very, very easy to hide stuff there. And if you're doing it there, you can do it in such a way that just by looking at the plots, you will not have any rapid transitions. You'll just have the candidate you want winning by a little bit, but always didn't do so consistently. So that was my basic argument. It sounds like Lei agrees with me. You guys are you familiar with this theory?
The Democrats are under.
So the way this works, as I've been told, is that they the theory goes, they rigged up the voting machines to cheat by a little bit, so it's not easily noticeable, but Biden was so far behind that they panicked and just flipped a bunch of votes. And that's why you had so significant transitions, and all of a sudden the Biden vote would jump up and Trump's would go down a little bit and that kind of stuff. Okay, I think that's what Ramsey is talking about. It's possible, but it is so freaking incompetent because, like I said, if I were rigging this up, you could watch this in real time. You can add a piece of code that can look at the difference between the candidate you want and candidate you don't want and very slightly adjust the factors to equalize. It's possible they did this, but it's such a stupid way of doing this. If when they dig down and figure out if this is it, they should be prosecuted for incompetence, not for fraud, and given a longer sentence.
Agreed.
Like, I'm a nerdy technical guy, right? I've worked with these things a lot over the years.
Oh, no. Completely understandable.
Like, I don't know what offends me more, the fraud or the stupidity, right? Like, if you're going to cheat, do it the right way.
That's how I feel.
That sounded wrong, but you know what I mean.
My thing is, I wouldn't be, if this was actually a true election where Biden would have actually won on an actual scale, I wouldn't be mad about it. It's the simple fact of the matter that they've already found 200-year-old people that are dead voting Democrat, and in multiple states. And they found a strip of code inside of the voting ballot system in over 72 counties across the United States that was found and even proved and showed that after so many votes Trump would get, it would knock him down and go to Biden. So it's fraud, it's theft, it's lying out on its best scale. So honestly, I wouldn't be so mad if this was an actual election where he would have won on actual standings. I'd accept it. But you know something? After the 4 years of hell that Trump has had to go through, for the simple fact of the matter, he's never gotten an actual fair chance. It doesn't make it right. Okay.
So they're not. So 200 people have been voted in Chicago every 2 years for a long time, right? So that's not new. I just don't think there's this kind of a small scale fraud. I don't think that's enough to swing a presidential election. Maybe local elections, and that should be investigated. This actual piece of code you're talking about, so I tried to look and I haven't found the specific. I've found people talking about that snippet of code. I have not found a coherent explanation of the algorithm implemented. And until I do, I don't know what to make out of this, right? I know how to read code. I know how to, I've developed a lot of code over the years. I'm not a coder, right? I'm a physicist. I've done high-level stuff, MATLABs and things like that, and some digital logic. So, and the next comment guy talks about it. I'm kind of with you on this, Lee. It's you implementing election cheating using software is sufficiently sophisticated activity that it can be so stupid that they'd only do it for the presidential election, not do it for the Senate races, not do it for the House races. But maybe they are that stupid. I don't know.
I really think they are.
You may be right, guys. I really don't know. Like I'd like to think that a developed democracy like ours can cheat more elegantly, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, there is no elegant way of cheating for these guys. They just want it done and said and done.
Yeah, but if this is how they did it, they will get strung up by the balls. Okay.
I hope so.
Yeah. Moving on.
I hope they raffle that off.
I think there'll be enough volunteers that it'll happen spontaneously. Yeah, so that's the same argument that Ramsey was making. Joe, you might be right. I don't know. I don't find it terribly likely and terribly believable because it implies some spectacularly heavy-handed incompetence on a grand scale. But maybe. I don't know. I am not sure I agree with this. You're talking about Palantir, Thiel's company. It provides software services for the U.S. government. They provide the tools, and the government uses the tools. I'm not going to go against the guy developing the tools, right? Thiel does not make his company, and he's not even running. Somebody else is a CEO. They provide the software tools to do things more efficiently, and their goal ultimately is for the government to be able to do things they want to do in a more efficient manner that saves the taxpayer some money. How the government uses that software is the government's prerogative. So if you want to go against somebody spying on a U.S. citizen, talk to the deep state and talk to our elected officials and hold our elected officials accountable, because ultimately it is up to them. Most of the problems we have right now with the United States, with our political system, would not have been there had the Congress and the Senate not abdicated half of the responsibilities to the executive branch over the last 30, 40 years, just because they didn't feel like doing shit. Okay, presidency was not designed to have quite as much power as it seems to wield right now, and they only have that power because Congress didn't want to do shit. So if you want to put responsibility somewhere, Congress is a good place to start. Guys, you might, like I said, you might be right. I'm not sure I agree with it, but hopefully we'll know soon enough.
I think I'd give it till probably. I want to say after Christmas we'll probably find out exactly what's going on. Again, it's a sliver of hope that the Supreme Courts do their job, but still,
yeah. Well, our best hope right now is the lawsuit filed by Texas together with a few other states.
Yes, Montana jumped in on that too.
Yeah, good. California didn't, and New Mexico didn't. Fuckers.
I'm telling you right now, Massachusetts didn't do that either.
Okay, so Derek is the only human among the three of us. Okay. Yeah. Let's hope Supreme Court considers it and digs into it. Correct. That's what I was talking about earlier. So software and firmware is not quite the same thing. Firmware, machine code embedded in the chip. harder to read, although possible harder to find. Very easy to implement by any decent digital engineer. Used to develop semiconductor chips for imaging. It's not. We spent half of our time looking for one or two switches that the digital guy accidentally put in there that was screwing everything up. Trust me, it's not easy even when you know what you're looking for. Okay, so that's a comment. I was kind of going over what Harris and Biden can do that's bad, and you're right, Joe. Executive orders is where we will have the most problems. And the most comment of the night, the most important comment of the night. I think the suggestion is that I don't look sophisticated enough without glasses. Thug. Professor. Max.
Right.
All right. Let's go to guns for a little bit. Joe, this is for you, buddy. Derek, after Joe's done, the floor's yours. And then I'm going to tell you you're all wrong.
Okay.
All right. As a gunsmith, your opinion on firearm companies with the best quality and QC. That's kind of open-ended. I'll tell you the one company that I don't have to send stuff out for warranty work a lot is Mossberg. I'll give them that. The only thing we've had to send out is like the shockwaves. That's the only thing I've had to really send out.
Oh, shit. I was about to buy one.
Again, it's more like the 590 versions, not the 500. Yeah. So go with the 500. The 590s is like, I don't know. I've only sent like 2 out, but I'd say their quality control is good. I'd say Ruger 1911s. I'd say Ruger has good quality control. And overall quality. I'm a Ruger fanboy, but so you can take that for what you will. And yeah, those are 2 companies that I'd say have good QC and overall quality. Weatherby, we had a couple Weatherby Vanguards come through the shop. They're actually really nice. Like, I'm not a fan of Weatherby just because, like, I don't know. I consider them to be a FUD brand, but you know.
You're not a country club kind of guy?
No, I'm not.
You had me fooled, man.
Snap. Yeah, and then Savage. Savage is good, but then again, they always make good guns.
You know, I've seen a decline in the quality of Savage, but not they spun off as a separate company. I hope it's going to get better.
Well, what have you been seeing for?
It's fair. So I used to shoot a lot of Savages, right? And Savages used to be really good out of the box accuracy guns.
Mm-hmm.
A little crude, the bores were a little rough, but they were drilled straight. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I started seeing accuracy issues when they heated up, and I took apart a couple, and the mating of the barrel to the receiver was not good. The receivers were not straight anymore. Generally, the floating bolt head fixes a lot of those issues, but I just started seeing some just machining crap. They worked, but the consistency was worse.
Mm.
And that coincided with Vista made guns.
Yeah.
Vista spun off Savage, so we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. Your opinion on CZ rifles. Jared, I'd say CZ rifles, the Bren 2, phenomenal. The Bren 805, heavy. And I hate that cheese grater quad rail thing they got going on the 805s. The Bren 2 rifles that we have that you get in, phenomenal. The Scorpions, you can't. Those things are amazing.
Okay, Derek.
Okay, for rifles, I am a Savage guy. I do like Savage. I do work with Kelby Atlas on a couple of my custom actions. I do have right now that I'm working on some projects for the channel. Shotguns. If you would have asked me that question 10 plus years ago, I probably would have said Remington. but I have to agree with. That's why. Hey, I said 10+ years ago.
Oh God!
You should warn me before you say things like that.
Yeah, you don't. Thank God I did not.
I'll put it in the chat next time.
I only got 3 of these left, bro. Come on.
But Mossberg is one of them. I would definitely say Mossbergs are good quality. I have done a lot of work on Mossbergs, on upgrading and stuff like that. For pistols, I really wish I could say SIG, because I used to live near the SIG factory, but their quality really has gone down over the last couple of years.
It's trash. And that's just coming from a guy. I work on a lot of SIGs.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big Glock guy. I've been carrying Glocks for about 20 years. I've never had any.
Okay, so for those who don't know, Derek is also.
I also don't heavily.
Okay.
What else can I say?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else I could put out there. Steyr makes a nice rifle. I'm not a fan of their bolt handles. CZ's been popping up real heavily on the NRL 22 scene lately. Same with the Ruger RPR rimfire, which is what I'm going to be shooting this next year, and I really do like that. And God, I don't know what else to say for pistols. I also like 1911s, but it's kind of hard to say what company out there makes a really good 1911 without spending a large amount of money. Rock Island Armory, I've never had an issue with. I mean, they're just heavy, but they're well built, and they're especially for being from the Philippines. But other than that, I mean, it's hard to say because there's not a lot of. I mean, okay, let me add one other rifle, Bergara.
Oh yeah,
I've had really good luck with the 2 Bergaros we've had on the channel, the 300 Win Mag and the 6.5 Creedmoor. We've had really good luck with the 6.5 Creedmoor, shooting less than half MOA at 1,000 yards with the 140 grain ELD match. And so, yeah, for Remington style action off the shelf, the Bergaras, I would say is one of the best. Christensen, I've seen a lot of Christensen arms go back. And it's sad because they're actually a really nice rifle, but I'm not a big fan of carbon fiber wrap barrels. I'm more of a traditionalist. I prefer a heavy barrel. So, but that's just me.
Well, a little masochism, personal choice.
I'm just also going to throw those out here, not firearm related wise, but QC wise. Just throwing this out there. The SPA3, good quality.
Yeah, for the next 5 minutes when they're still legal, yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
Right?
You seriously, like, check out the
I hope you weren't wanting this monetized.
I know, right? Check out the thumbnail on my upcoming video. I finally built my pistol lower, and I got it done in 3 videos. And the thumbnail for the installation of the SPA3, oh my God, it's gold. Clickbait gold.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I am.
Just like I said, for the next 8 minutes while it's still legal.
Right.
Yeah, I have the Honey Badger pistol. So.
And you're saying I go to the country club that much? Come on.
I got one of the original SP1s. What are you guys talking about? I love that thing.
I have a couple of fixes and a Honey Badger, and I never had. I wasn't country club. I just made fun of you. I didn't say anything about me.
How do you like the fix? Like, is it worth the money?
It is the best.
Okay.
It's
is that the bolt action one?
Yeah, it's a bolt action. I have a fix and I have a mini fix handgun. I'll do a couple of videos on them. My fix is serial number 003.
Oh wow!
Oh, okay. I like that number.
So you and Kevin Brittenham are like this?
I like Kevin. He's a good dude. I want to get him on the podcast. He's a controversial dude, but he's a good dude.
I've been wanting to get him on. I've been wanting to get him on the podcast for a while.
And I'm pretty friendly with his CTO, Ethan. He's a really smart engineer. They did a bunch of clever things with that gun.
What's funny is the honey badgers was made where I grew up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Yep.
Oh, so you were way up there.
Well,
Oh,
that's where
dude, I was
that's
all
where
over
Q
New
is. I've got the video up of me assembling my minifix when I visited them last time.
No, I don't care what anybody says, but nothing beats a good 338 Lapua.
Well, hey, at least you actually pronounce it like a normal human being.
Where's Max? Where's stuff going? Right,
Yeah,
guys,
I'm waiting for his chat to. I'm waiting for him to come in and say something next.
in a minute now. Okay.
I'm sorry, Bud, but good God, Max, say it like a normal human.
Yeah, good luck with that. Okay. Jared had a good comment on politics.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right, Jared. So a lot of bureaucrats live in Northern Virginia and Maryland, and where they live went as 90% for Biden, just like DC did. Okay. Rangefinders. I'm just going through the comments in order. So I'm not much of an archery guy, so I didn't spend too much time figuring out what's good for close range. But the last few years, my almost go-to thing for rangefinders has been SIG. They've really done a good job with the rangefinders. Okay.
I wish I could agree with you on that.
I've had a few, and they were good.
I think the only thing SIG makes good in a rangefinder is the Fury 3000. No, not the Fury, but the Kilo 3000 binoculars. I was actually really impressed with those.
I have the 2400, the rangefinder, not the binocular. It was quite good. That is, still have it actually. It's quite good. I've tested quite a few others. Historically, I always liked Leica rangefinders, and if I had to recommend a rangefinder without digging deeply into it, it's Leica is always up there. But for the money, SIG's done an amazing job.
If you're looking for something to range past 2,000 yards and to do it freehand, the Vortec Razor 4K.
Yeah, that actually worked quite well. But the question is, if you're 100 yards and up close, and good for the money, right?
Oh. Well,
so
the SIG Kilo 1000, those were on. We had a lot of those on sale where I worked this year, and those were about $140.
Yeah, and they were surprisingly decent. I like the Leica because the optics in original Leica rangefinders were always a step above. But whoever is making them in Asia for SIG and a bunch of other people, all made in the same factories, has really figured out how to do it pretty well. Okay. So where was I? I lost which comment I was looking at. Oh, there we go. Okay, I think that is pertaining to Joe's enlightened commentary on the Bodyguard 380. Is that still your favorite gun, Joe?
No, it's not. It's a big hunk of shit.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have unanimous agreement because I've never shot that thing.
Don't bother. It's trash. Like, I'm sorry. Smith dropped the effing ball. Oh my god. I had to help this poor woman. That was as bad as the
Sigma. That pistol was just as bad as the Sigma. I mean,
I have mixed feelings on the Sigma because my first handgun was a SD40 VE, which is essentially a Sigma upgraded. Now, I really enjoy the Sigma for what it is. Also, I hate the Sigma.
An anchor and a good paperweight?
Okay, if you ever try to do an Apex trigger install on that, it's horseshit. I shouldn't have to I shouldn't have to hand file the over travel stop on a Apex of all things. It took me 2 hours to install that trigger because I had to hand file to get the over travel stop just right.
Okay. All right, I've got a questions here. Soleil needs to go to sleep. He's got 2 small kids, and I have a lot of sympathy for that. Mine are older than that, but they used to be 1.5 and 2.5. Okay. So, a lot depends. A lot depends on your budget and on how you train. If you train enough, offset red dots work really well. If you don't train a ton, it's different, right? Because you end up having different presentation versus like this. It doesn't seem like much, but it's actually a fair bit. So if you train presentation, offset red dots work very well. And if you want a rifle that can also reach a fairly far out there, combining an offset red dot with a more conventional scope or like a fixed magnification prismatic or something like that works really well. Combining a low-powered variable optic LPVO with an offset red dot gives you a couple of things. One of them, it gives you redundancy, because you have 1x in a scope and no magnification, a red dot, and you can do potentially more things. But most people who have an offset red dot with an LPVO, it's for a situation where you're stuck on high magnification and you need to transition to something up close and you don't have time to dial the scope down, right? So this question is more of a, how do you use your gun? Me personally, for my, I've set up a bunch of LPVOs with offset red dots for other people, some family members, stuff like that. It works well. For me personally, if I have a low-powered variable optic on a gun, and I have a few pictures and videos out, like for my Razor 1 to 10 and stuff like that, non-country club kind of stuff, Joe. With the Schmidt and Bender DLCC, 1 to 10 March with scopes like that. With those, for my use, I do not set up an offset red dot. I like to have an auxiliary sight, and I usually have some sort of an offset iron sights, like XTI from XS Sights or Second Zero from Zero Bravo, something like that. So I have an auxiliary sight, but it's really just for backup. For primary use, I prefer the low-powered variable optic to tilting the gun. Now, with conventional scopes like this WFA 329 or something like that, I like to have an offset red dot. So it does give me speed up close. And there I go with the red dot. An offset red dot will be faster than offset iron sight. Yeah, I hope that makes some sort of sense. Anything you want to add on this, guys?
I'm more of an iron sight guy for a backup. If I was going to do an offset, because a red dot's just another mechanical failure, just like an LPVO or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more toward that traditional iron sight system, because you can always zero it between 36, 50, and 100, however you want to zero it. But your iron sights are never going to steer you wrong.
Oh boy, do we disagree! Because I've seen more failures with AR iron sights than with modern high-quality red dots.
Well, okay. I haven't really trained much with an offset red dot either, because that's more recent stuff in the past 5 years. 10 years ago, when I was on the sheriff's office, we were allowed to have an LPVO and backup iron sights and stuff like that, but you didn't have a lot of offset stuff back 10 years ago. So it's hard to say for me. I really haven't trained too much for offset. Offhand, I have not offset sights, but for me personally, it would be a traditional iron sight.
Yeah, so I have a little bit of an advantage in the fact that I know some of the manufacturer statistics. Modern high-quality red dot sights have come a long way in terms of reliability, and iron sights have a lot of history, but not quite, especially the folding ones, not quite as reliable as we think. So I'm not sure there is a really reliability edge. Where to me, iron sights do have a definite edge is in terms of they stick out less, right? Because to have the same sighting axis, you don't have everything above it like you would in a red dot, if that makes sense. Okay. I think Derek froze. Well, if I was going to freeze, that's a fairly dignified look. Okay. Bang for the buck. And in terms of weight, non-LPVO optics do have a little bit of an advantage. At high, look, so you get a low-power variable optic because you need that one power. If you don't need one power, don't do it, because a 3 to 9 will be better on 9 than a 1 to 10 on 9 if they're even remotely similar quality. Large objective, better low light. So it becomes really comes down to what kind of comes down to really what kind of application you have in mind. In terms of if you want the most flexible performance, bang for the buck, a more conventional scope with a red dot is probably going to give you more. Okay. Yes. So there was an earlier question about F-class scopes, right? So yes, the Striker 5 to 50. Optically, the Golden Eagle was up there, and it does have more elevation. But for F-class, you don't need that much elevation, right? F-class is 600 yards. You don't need all that
actually, F-class is going up to 1,000 now.
Oh, they're doing 1,000 now?
Yeah, they're doing 600,000, and then they're talking next year they're possibly going to do, some ranges are going to do 12.
Okay, then Golden Eagle is going to have a harder time. It has it's a 30 millimeter tube scope, and it has a more limited elevation range. Okay. And that's a gentleman who asked about F-class. Okay, 7 Vortex Golden Eagles and 1 Delta Striker. So he's got a few high magnification scores. Oops, my bad, Lee. So Mark V is not an F-class scope, really. So F-class, conventional wisdom is that for F-class, you need to have 40x roughly available. More is better, but 40 power seems kind of like a standard. So Mark V is not really an F-class scope. But the 7 to 35 Mark V can be used like that, but traditional F-class scopes, usually they're second focal plane because you want a really thin reticle. The targets are at a known distance, and the targets have rings that are delineated in MOA. So reticles that work well for F-class are MOA reticles that match the different rings of the F-class target, and that's how they do corrections. F-class shooters think of corrections differently than PRS shooters and people like that do, right? They think more in terms of the rings on the target and how they correlate to the reticle, rather than thinking in angular units. Mark V is really more of a practical precision shooting scope rather than F-class. For F-class, between the Strikers and Golden Eagles and March, you've got stuff like Night Force bench rest and things like that. So those do well in F-class. Night Force competition, I think, is a new one. I think that's the one. Leupold has 7 to 42 VX6, which I think they were trying to go for F-class, and some fixed power competition scopes. Not really the Mark V. You guys do, Derek, you've done F-class or just know how it works?
I've been following Eric Cortina and F-class John on YouTube and been learning a lot about F-class lately. Actually, I thought about doing an F-class rifle project next year because F-class is big out in Missoula, Montana. They got a 600 and 1,000 yard range that does F-class a lot. And excuse me. And so I was thinking about building a rifle and taking it up there and trying it. And with Lapua releasing the 284 Winchester brass this next year, that kind of makes it a little more intriguing to want to build an F-class rifle now. Because I was actually going to look at a 280 Ackley approved.
Okay.
In that area, or the 6.5 by 284.
Okay, yeah, 6.5 by 284 is compared to the common in F-class.
Yes. There's actually some guys using 6mm calibers, which actually kind of for 1,000 yard area, which I thought was kind of interesting because of stability out that area, and because 6mm don't have such a high BC like a 7mm projectile does.
Interesting. I don't know. So when 6.5 to 84 and stuff like that became popular, high BC 6mm bullets didn't exist yet. Now there's some.
Yeah.
So I can see more than 6mm bullets doing all right in F class. So, okay, we got a question, another comment back on the politics. We were talking about Palantir, Peter Thiel's company. So social media companies don't need any help turning themselves into a spy operation. They do it just fine on their own. And about Palantir, like I said, I don't know too much about the company. I know a little bit. I'll just say that, like I said, they build the tools. They themselves are not spying, right? So if you look at who is spying on who, look at the people who make the orders.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I should go to Parler.
I am on Parler.
Oh, you are?
I did. I am too.
I know. I follow you, Derek. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I try and make sure I follow like literally everybody I can on Parler because, like, for some reason it's weird. Like Instagram, I notice depending on what I post, it like either does nothing or like it jacks up. Like I posted something of just like some guns I was working on at work, and it's still climbing. I think I'm up to over 200 views, 200 likes, and then on Parler I reach over 100 people per post, which again for my channel I'm only like I'm at like 440 right now, so my channel is kind of small, but that's a decent size for a channel my size. So but it's consistent on Parler, but it's all over the place on.
Yeah, I'm not terribly active on most social media. I'm trying to do the YouTube thing, and I'm doing stuff with my website and locals. I'm sort of a long form kind of guy, so I have to be very careful with all the snippets and things.
I did a lot on Instagram when I first started and got really popular really quick on there. I got up over 1,000 followers within the first few months. But I've noticed with Instagram, it's starting to die down little by little. Parler is starting to work a lot better. The new one's called MeWe, I think it's called. It's
I've heard about that, yeah.
Facebook. So I've had a lot of the groups I'm on Facebook, long range shooters and long range persons, stuff like that, is going to MeWe. And this is supposed to be on the same basis as Parler. First Amendment protected, Second Amendment protected. So,
yeah. So look, my basic postulate is that all the Second Amendment people will be eventually directly or indirectly kicked out from all the main conventional social media channels, Facebooks, Instagrams, all sort of stuff. So I'm not investing a ton of effort into Facebook, Instagram, and things like that. I am trying to go to free speech platforms, locals, Parler, that kind of stuff. We'll see where that takes us.
Locals. I haven't tried that one yet. Might check that out tonight.
Well, that's where I built my website. So if you go to darklordofoptics.com, it will take you to my page on locals, and it's more of a subscription-based thing. Some content is free, some requires memberships and stuff like that. But if you want to do some guest writing, guest posts, etc., I will give you all the permissions, and by all means, and we'll promote your channel, among other things.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I want to build more of a community there, right? So there are different ways of doing it. Okay. Something that has to be clarified and dispelled immediately. To quote Bush Sr., read my lips. There's no such thing as too much bourbon. Take it from a drunk Russian.
Or you could just drink, beer like a real man.
I have celiac disease. And gluten-free beer sucks.
Oh, okay. That's respectable. I get that.
Do you have any idea how hard it is to be this fat when you can't eat any of the good stuff? It takes dedication. It takes work. It takes effort. Not so easy.
That's
okay,
right.
my friend Pupu, who is going to bring up some asshole, is going to make me drink again momentarily. How much whiskey does it take to kill a Russian to an Irishman? I don't know, about a bottle and a half.
I was going to say, I'm an Irishman myself, and it doesn't take that much when it comes to whiskey.
Yeah, so Russians drink high hard liquor, and I remember we had an Irish friend. He was really superbly funny guy, and he could drink ridiculous amounts of beer. I don't know how that much liquid could fit in that skinny of a person. But drinking with us didn't go well for him. I don't know. I think it's cultural. Okay, a few more things on guns. Sako, including Tikka. So I'm a big fan of Tikka and Sako generally. I have more Tikkas. I have a fair amount of mileage with Sako guns. For the money, I think it's very hard to do better in the modern market than a Tikka. If you want a gun that you don't want to mess with too much, Tikka is definitely up there. Thoughts?
I just handled a Tikka today at work, and I was actually very impressed. It was a Tikka T3. It looked like some type of tactical model.
Yep.
It was a 308, and it was lightweight. I don't know. I was really liking it. I just didn't like that was almost $2,000.
Yeah. Well, the Sakos and the Tikkas, the barrels. That Sako bought Tikka some years ago. The barrels all made in the same place. Big machines, camouflage barrels. They do a real good job with them. They're super consistent. I have an old Tikka that's stupid accurate, and it was just a cheap hunting rifle. I got a Tikka rimfire, and I've had a good number of them go through my hands over the years. They do a lot of things well. The action is stiff. The barrels are good. Put it in a good stock, and you don't really have to do much else with it. So.
I'd have to say, for anything for information, I'm going to put you towards Logan over at West Desert Shooters. He does a lot with Tikkas. Okay. I've never shot a Tikka. I've held many of them, but never have actually shot one. I've heard nothing but great things about them. So that's all I know.
So Logan is out in Utah, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Let's see more on guns. So. Howard is more like Winchester. I don't know. I mean, they're both made in Japan. That's pretty much it. I don't know too much about modern day Winchesters. I think the hunting stuff is like Browning, made by Morocco and Japan. But the flat bottom actions, like the ones shared with FN, those are US made, right, guys?
Yes. True.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
FN, it's hard to say because they were doing a lot of Belgium stuff for the longest time. I don't know if their bolt action stuff has come over to the US yet, but I know they are producing the scars over here now too.
Yeah. So the FN action for SPR, FN, and all that's US made. It is now. A funny comment about SIG, public beta tester. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes alpha tester. I like SIGs overall. They do ergonomics well. They do a lot of things well, but did not like the rollout of a lot of the P320 and all that. And I used to shoot SIGs a lot, the West German SIGs and stuff, and I switched back to Glocks. I think US made SIGs are not as good as the Germans were. No. And coming from me, it pains me to say something nice about the Germans. I don't genuinely do that. But we'll see. Look, so SIG has grown tremendously in the last few years, and every company that grows that fast, gets that big, has growing pains. Yes. Next 2-3 years is really stabilization phase, where we get to see if they stabilize and quality goes up, or if this continues. We'll see.
Okay, I will say one thing about SIG. Their new P320 Scorpion, I got to handle one and play around with it last weekend. I was highly impressed with it. I want to shoot it. I really like the ergonomics. It felt really good in the hand. I'm looking forward to trying to get out there and shoot one, but it's one of those guns I'm going to give it a year before I purchase one, if I go that route.
Yeah, in most cases, I'm also not a first adopter, although I probably should not have disclosed the serial number of my fix, but
But that's your country, bros,
Pardon me?
You gotta, shout out your country club brothers, It happens.
Oh, there you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, if we're going country club, I mean, I got 2 Kelby Atlas actions. I mean, if you want to call it a country club, I mean,
Okay, I feel so out of place because you guys talk about like precision rifles and optics that I have no idea. Listen, my AR has a cantilever mounted backwards. Okay, I would like.
So Derek,
no
I'm
idea.
strongly considering booting him off of the live cast.
Well, I need help. I'm building a pistol. And I don't know what type of. I don't know what type of optic to put on my pistol. I was thinking about going with Holosun.
Talk to me. I'll send you some stuff to play with.
Ooh.
Holosun's a good company. I've heard not a lot of bad things about
Holosun, it's a Chinese company, right? But as far as Chinese companies go, they know what they're doing. Holosun is a part of a larger semiconductor company, so they do a lot of their own stuff, and they're very good.
I have a Sturka S3 on my 20-inch DMR. I really enjoy it. Like, it's not like a super fancy model, but I enjoy the accuracy. I like the eye relief on it. I do enjoy it.
Perfectly decent.
And it said the company just went out of business.
Sturka closed?
Yes.
Okay. It's not unexpected, but it's very surprising it took this long.
Wow.
So that's what they at least that's what they told me at the store I work at. So that Sturka officially is closed. I know we're starting to look at that.
Max, if you're listening, you're tight with those guys. Could you find out, please?
Yeah,
I'm not surprised, but I'm sorry to see them go. They were backed by Celestron, so there was a chance to build a real brand out of it. But honestly, I always enjoyed the name of the company because in Russian it means hand laundry, like washing clothes by hand. Stirka. Stirka is strength in Swedish, but in Russian it's much funnier.
It is.
Okay. All right. Doug has 2 original Sigmas, and they had to go back more than once, and he still has them. No comment. I got nothing to say. 93 era. Well, I guess masochism has many ramifications. All right. Joe, you did great. Those are actually kind of decent old scopes, surprisingly. They fog up like nobody's business. But they optically, they were surprisingly good.
United Golden Grizzly. That sounds like a Walmart branded scope all day long.
These are very old scopes, and they were actually made in Japan by hand and all that sort of stuff.
Arasaka Sporter. Oh man, why? No.
I have a Mosin Nagant Sporter, more than one.
I have a Mauser.
Yeah.
I really wish I didn't sell my 6.5x55 Arasaka because I would actually barrel it now to like a 655 Swede.
That was one of all the military actions. Arasaka was the strongest by solid margin.
That's what I heard. I want to buy an Arasaka so bad, but it's like I don't reload, and I think because like that's why I don't shoot my Mauser that much because, granted, you can get 8mm Mauser anywhere right now. It's one of the calibers that like you literally cannot. Any store you walk into, you can find.
What's the only reason why I shoot 338 is because I reload. If I didn't reload, I would never own that rifle.
Yeah. Okay. Which caliber are you talking about, Joe?
8mm Mauser.
I've got more 8mm Mauser than any store you know of. Derek is supposed to be building me a hunting rifle and 8mm Mauser eventually.
I've got to get on that.
I'm in no rush, but I really want that weird barrel profile. But that's going to be another live cast. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
All right. Lee, I remembered how to pronounce that. March 3 to 24 by 42. And there is a couple of scopes coming down the pike that will fit this build, but they're not out yet, probably in 2021.
Yes, the new Athlon Ares ETR 3 to 18 by 50, I believe, will fit that build.
It's going to be, I think, slightly heavier than this one. There's a Japanese-made scope that's coming out. It's gonna be in that weight class.
No, okay. I don't know. Kind of after looking at Athlon's website today and looking at some of the new stuff they're releasing next year, I'm actually kind of impressed.
Athlon is a good company.
I'm thinking about giving them a try on my PRS rifle this year.
There's a good company. They're good guys. Kevin Au is a good dude. I mean, they know what they're doing. There is a reason why Athlon has grown as fast as it has. Ooh, that's interesting. So yeah, I have seen this. Have you guys seen this?
I've heard of something about it, but I've never actually seen it.
Never.
Okay.
I know nothing of F-class shooting.
Yeah. So the way they do this, right? So some people do this. This is just for the record, it's a stupid idea. They shouldn't do it. It's one of those old wives' tale that people do, but it's not going to hurt anything. So there's no real harm. It just doesn't do anything useful. What the way a mount references against the Picatinny rail, there are recoil lugs, usually more than one, sometimes just one. And you don't really know which one is going to settle and where, and you want it to be consistent. So when everything was crooked and not straight, they would put some lube on the rail, mount the mount, clamp it, just not too hard, and fire a few rounds so the recoil would push the mount back against whatever stop it needs to stop. And that would be the spot, and then they tighten it and leave it alone, etc. It's old wives' tales, total nonsense. If modern mounts and rails are machined well, Neo manufacturing in Canada is actually a very nice mount. If you put it on a good rail, mount it in with your finger, press it back against it, ain't going nowhere, and that's the location. And it's not going to be shifting.
I've had good luck with the EGW mounts myself.
Yeah, EGW is quite good actually.
EGW and Warren out of Oregon. They make a really good mount.
Yeah, that's quite decent, yes. 18-inch medium weight Grendel barrel. I have one of those. I'm gonna finally shoot it out and probably switch to 6mm arc. It's gonna be hard to say bye to my Grendel. I was an early adopter. I went through all the crap that caliber went through.
I'm still loving my 223-556. I don't got anything too crazy. Granted,
one of the videos I think I'm going to do here in the future is the 6mm arc versus the 6mm AR improved. I'm going to do a ballistic charts on it.
Oh, that would be interesting. I'm curious.
I was doing a lot of research last night on improved cartridges, and that was one that actually caught my eye.
Okay.
Thinking about getting a 350 Legend.
I would say
Horrible.
something, but it's too easy.
Really, it's a horrible caliber.
They dropped the ball on that one.
Is it like 224 voucher?
Majorly dropped the ball on that caliber.
Yeah. Okay.
Winch screwed that one all up. Honestly, save your money. Do a 300 blackout bolt action if you're going to do anything. Or
I have one of those.
Blackout.
I have a 300 blackout. I also have 458 SOCOM. If you want a thumper, that's a nice caliber.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've got another Palantir thing. So, Joe, I'm curious about this. I haven't seen that talk. Shoot me an email at this email, swag@darklordofoptics.com. Send me a link to that Peter Thiel video. I'm very curious. I know a lot of people who know Peter, so that should be interesting.
Okay, guys. I'm gonna have to jump off. I'll try to jump back on. I got about 20 minutes, so I got to get to work. So
okay.
I will catch you guys.
I actually got to hop off too. I got work early tomorrow morning, man. Ira, thank you for so much for having me.
All right, guys, thank you for joining in. I always like having people here I can abuse in public. So,
And don't forget, vote for Shooting Gallery New England in the Gundy Awards, Breakout Creator of the Year. Please, let's get us to the Gundies.
All right, we'll do. I'll put the links to your channels in the video description.
All right, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining, guys. Appreciate it.
See you guys. I'll keep streaming live.
Take care.
Streaming, listening to you guys. Bye.
Okay. Sig Cross. Yeah, they had a major recall. Sig Cross was supposed to be something that kills Q's fix because it is supposedly similar and lighter. The guy who designed Cross for Sig, I think he was part of Q in the beginning. Then they had a falling out. He went back to Sig and did his lightweight bolt gun. I've never shot Sig Cross, so I don't have any personal opinions. Like I said, I'm generally not an early adopter, although there are exceptions to that. And once they fix their stuff, I'll probably take a look. I'm very curious. I'm very happy with my fixed guns. They've been good. So we'll see. I mean, if somebody makes a cheaper version of the same thing, I'll buy one and try it out. But the recall is, you're right, it's not encouraging. Somebody asked me about them a while back, so I was curious. I did some digging, got my hands on a couple. Somebody had them to look at. They seem to be very well-made mounts. A lot of the European mounts have some funky grooves and things I don't like, but I didn't see anything wrong with them. Nice NATO-style rail grabber and all that, but it's a fairly expensive mount and not so easy to get. Here's the thing, right? Unless a mount has something, some very specific feature that you're looking for, I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to get one very particular brand. Between high-end brands, there's not that much difference. There are some exceptions, like when I did my video on mounts. I don't like Spur because of those conical screws. And I keep on having arguments with them. They have a bunch of very devoted supporters who tell me that I'm full of shit, but I don't say these things out of the blue, right? But with the better stuff, there's not that much quality difference. So look for features you like and go for it. If Tier 1 does something for you that more commonly available mounts don't, go for it. They seem to be well-made mounts. I can assault a country club barehanded, get to the bar, and show them how it's done. Thank you, Joe. I'm really curious. Aeratech is a very large European company making a lot of mounts for Meopta and a bunch of other things. I recently played with their ultralight and I really liked it. Some of their mounts have very weird cross bolt lugs that with this weird ass triangular dots. You need a special tool. There is no good reason for that crap. But some of them use perfectly conventional fasteners, and those I like quite a bit. Anything that needs a special tool, not for me. You wish. Okay, scout rifles. I promised to talk about it. I promised to talk about it earlier. So I genuinely like scout rifles, but when scout rifles were invented and popularized, modern low-power variable scopes did not yet exist. And while nobody obviously knows, I have a very strong suspicion that Jeff Cooper probably would not have done the scout concept if modern guns with easily and commonly available detachable magazines and low power variable scopes existed. The idea behind a scout scope was basically three things, right? And Steyr Scout personifies it. And I'm going to buy one at some point because I like the idea and I like it for historical reasons. And it does work. I've had a few Scout rifles over the years, a Ruger and a Savage and a modernized Mosin, and I've played with the Steyr. The scope being a little bit further forward allows you to see more things around it for speed. So you have better situation awareness and a little bit of magnification to give it just a little bit more precision. The action open up top allows you to use stripper clips and just basically have better access to the ejection port, right? And the whole thing has to be reasonably lightweight so you can carry it around without getting a hernia, and it'll be fast on target and all that sort of stuff. Here's the catch. When the concept was invented and initially popularized, the selection of typical rifle scopes was very limited. Reticles were thin, the scopes were harder to use, magnification ranges were comparatively low. You didn't have anything like what we have today. In the modern market, if you take any lightweight, reliable 308 rifle, like, I don't know, Tikka T3 Lite or something like that, and put a high-quality 1-to-6 power scope, it's going to be faster on 1 power than any Scout scope, right? And it's going to be more accurate on 6 power. At least it will give you a little bit better precision, and it's going to be better in low light. And none of the modern actions take stripper clips anyway, right? And you can have it with the detachable magazine, have a few of them. Scout rifles work in the context of when they were invented, but they are really, in terms of performance, with modern equipment, you can do better. So that's basically, is anything wrong with it? No. Can you do better? Yeah. So worn vertically split rings are not awesome. There are issues with them, like with all vertically split mounts that rely on the ring halves flexing. Worn single-piece mounts, current ones are actually pretty good. But the first of their slightly skeletonized ring mount that came out, Gen 1, had some issues. They quickly figured it out. Gen 2 is quite good, and their new Skyline mounts look quite respectable. Generally good company, they do a lot of good things. So the Skyline mounts from Warren is kind of on my list to look at, but I'm pretty well familiar with the conventional stuff. And other than the vertically split rings, all I can say are good things. Yeah, you should push it forward against the lugs, right? So the way, so the question is, right? So if you're installing one-piece mount, do you push it forward against the lugs or backwards against the lugs? You push it forward, right? Because when the round goes off, the recoil pushes the rifle back, and you want the recoil lug of the scope mount to be already touching one of the lugs in a Picatinny rail, so that they move together. If there's any space between them, the mount is going to move forward with respect to the rifle. More specifically, the rifle is going to move back so that it gauges the lug of the mount. So that's the recoil surface. You want the mount to be pushed forward against the lug in the Picatinny rail. Okay. So a buddy of mine up in Canada has one of these G3x Arctic rifles, and he's been killing himself trying to figure out how to properly put a scope on it without removing the rear sight. But those are really cool looking guns. I've been seriously thinking about it. Kind of a sort of a piece of Canadiana. I don't know how many of the iron sighted guns we're gonna get. T3x Arctic was originally developed for some Canadian law enforcement agency up north where it's so freaking cold that a lot of the optics start giving them issues, and iron sights don't terribly care how cold it is. If you haven't seen it, it's a really cool gun. It's like a medium weight barrel, a 308, very high quality iron sights, little Picatinny rail, and a funky colored laminated stock. Not exactly a lightweight gun, but really cool looking rifle. I'm seriously considering picking one up. It's really nice. Okay. Damn. I envy you, Doug. That's a really cool gun. So when I first started shooting, I lived in LA at the time, and I used to go to an outdoor range called Angeles Shooting Range. And there was an old guy there who would come with a gray Star Scout, and just the way the gun looked, that was the coolest thing I had ever seen at that point. But I looked up the price and just about fainted. It was a long time ago. I've gotten really desensitized since then. Yes, that gray Star Scout almost excuses you for holding on to those 2 Sigmas for so long. What is red? I'm not sure I follow. Wait, the Steyr is unfired? Are you a collector or are you a shooter? I don't think I own any guns that I have not fired, just because I can't help myself. Oh, wow. That was the last of the questions. Good. I might be able to sleep tonight. Oh, you have an unfired Arctic. Oh, interesting. Wow. Ooh, you know, honestly, I'd probably talk to Beretta USA. They the import of Tikkas, and see if they're bringing them into the US. I thought they were. I saw somebody with one, and if you want to talk to one of the dealers, I'd probably talk to guys at Optics. I thought they'd have it. Hold on. They always have more with the Tikkas. Let's see. Yeah, so Optics lists it, but you're right, it's out of stock. I talked to them and see. They would know when it might come in. It's available in 308 and 6.5 Creedmoor. 308 would be probably the more correct version. Personally, I'd probably get 6.5. Oh, 6.5 Creedmoor actually is in stock. I think the 308 is out of stock. Let me see. No, they're both in stock, I think. Yes, so try your Optic. I'll show it on my screen. There you go. So that's a Euro Optic website. There are 2 models. This is the 308, and this is a 6.5 Creedmoor. I might pick up the Creedmoor now that I see it. And if you can add it to cart, it's usually in stock. So that would be the place where I look. Okay. Oh, I don't know, Joe. How about you give it a shot and let me know how it goes? It's a funny thing. So this buddy of mine up in Canada who has one. So we're talking about grilling. I obviously like food and I grill and I cook. And he was giving me this whole business about, in order to get just the right flavor and whatever cut of meat we were talking about, you must have maple charcoal. So I do a search on maple charcoal, and I can only order it from like freaking Minnesota with $60 delivery. This crazy man packs a bunch of charcoal in a box and sends it to me from Canada so that I'd be able to try it. I think it was the most expensive airlifted piece of charcoal I've ever seen. Okay. There you go, your optic. Yeah, but then it wouldn't be the Arctic, right? So they have Tikka uses this multicolor plywood in a few different designs. A friend of mine has this more of a biathlon type Tikka G3x in 6.5 by 55 Swede, with not identical, but similar color scheme, and it's a very, very comfortable stock. It's like a biathlon type stock, like the old Tikka Master rifles used to have. And they do a good job with it. Tikka, the way Tikka inlets their plywood stocks, the laminated stocks, they do a good job with it. Everything fits, everything is done nicely. I mean, like I said, Tikka does things their own way, but they do them well, generally. Yeah, that's a marvel of marketing engineering. I stopped reviewing Yarval data scopes for a variety of issues, partly because I had some issues with US importer, partly because the marketing didn't correspond to the scopes, partly because there was so much sample variation that you can't make heads or tails out of it. I can't in good faith recommend any IR product at this stage. So that's just that. Hold on. I'm looking for something. I'm not sure what I was just talking about. Oh, there we go. So yeah, that's the gun I was talking about earlier that has also that same type of. Let's see if you guys will be able to see it. So now it's called Tikka Sporter. Okay. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but yeah, that's a similar type of a laminate. That's the exact one my buddy has, except it's in 6.5 by 55 Swede, and it's that rifle is stupid accurate. So, Lucas Red and Tech, I have no idea what that is. I've experimented a little bit with homemade lubes, trying to save some money, but then I realized that the amount of time I spend on them, might as well just buy some sort of a normal lube. I've had very good luck with stuff from KG, from Sleep 2000, more recently from PFG. Can't complain. Hey, Bill. Haven't seen you in a while. So Crossfire DS actually not bad. I mean, it's the same inexpensive Chinese red dot sight, but red dot sights are fairly easy to make. They updated everything, I think, beginning of 2020 or something like that. And now the Crossfire has long battery life and all that sort of stuff. The QC seems to be pretty good. I've heard of a few failures, but generally it's been good. And if something craps out, Vortex will fix it for you. As far as budget red dot sights go, Vortex Crossfire is probably one of your better options. I don't know. I may still have a little syringe with that Militech stuff somewhere, but I haven't seen them in quite a long time. I'm not sure if they're still around or not. It's hard to say. Let's see, now I'm curious. See, if you ask me a question and I don't know the answer, my OCD goes into overdrive. Yeah, still around. A little OCD goes a long way, and Militech still does stuff for firearms. Yeah, synthetic metal conditioner, same stuff, works for firearms. What do you know? Still here. Apparently they do a ton of different lubricants for a bunch of things. The Militech is good stuff. I've had pretty good firearms. I've had pretty good luck with them over the years. So, yeah. Can't complain. Oh, no, I don't. I bought some a while back. It was kind of expensive at the time. It was kind of a syringe applicator. It was fairly thick, like grease, and I used it on handguns, on slides. Back when I was shooting a lot of CZs with that long slide rail contact, and I was pretty happy with it. Let's see. Okay, Bill. So it's Vortex Crossfire or SIG Romeo 5. I haven't seen the Romeo 5 in a while. I think they're pretty comparable. I wouldn't be hugely surprised if they're made in the same place. They look kind of similar. Either one is going to do fine. I'm about to look at SIG's red dot sights a little more. It's my plan for the next couple of months. But I want to look at the US assembled stuff. I'm curious about optics assembled in the US, and SIG has built a facility in Oregon, and the Romeo 4H is done there, and that's one of the ones I want to look at, and a couple others. Everything I know about Romeo 5, it's an inexpensive but perfectly decent red dot sights, and so is the Vortex Crossfire. Honestly, I'd look around and get one that's cheaper. I don't know if there is any real performance difference between them that I can think of. Well, you missed the beginning of the livecast, I think, Bill. I've got a large caliber air gun coming my way, a 50 caliber Air Force Texan. And I'm gonna do the next livecast on big boy air guns. I'm really curious about these things. It's sort of the prepper in me. As everything starts getting banned, the air guns will be the last to go. So, and I find them interesting. So that's going to be my next gun project, though not a firearm. With firearms, the latest thing that got here was a Palmetto State Armory's AK-74, but our lunatic governor, Kim Jong-Lujan, she thinks she's a North Korean dictator, not a New Mexico governor, I think. She locked down the state pretty tight, so between that and us moving and things like that, I have not actually had a chance to go and shoot my new AK-74. I'm really looking forward to doing that. I think I'm going to sneak out next week and go do some shooting. I need to do some photography for Guns N' M. I'm writing a bunch of stuff for the 2021 season. And I need to go take some pictures. And that's going to be one of the ones I want to do some pictures of. Aside from that, honestly, I have a lot of guns, and I have a lot of projects with the guns I have. I did not plan to be buying too many new things. for now, but famous last words. The moment I say there's something new and interesting is going to pop up, and I just won't be able to resist myself. So we'll see. Super are really gay. I'm not sure what super is, but I assume you mean that different lubricants and stuff like that. There is not that much difference between most of them. I've seen some that kind of become thick and not awesome in low temperatures, like Frog Lube and a few others. I've seen some differences in corrosion protection, some versus others. The reason I started using Sleep 2000 is because the degreaser is water-based, and I shoot quite a lot of old military surplus guns that still have corrosive primers. And to clean that out of the barrel, it really works if you have some sort of a water-based solvent. You just kind of flush the barrel with it for a little bit, and one patch with some sort of lube, and you're golden. So that's pretty much how Sleep 2000 came about. Aside from that, you're right, there's not a whole lot of difference in terms of lubricants, but there is some difference in terms of corrosion protection. And there is a very significant difference in how they all smell. So if I don't want to sleep on a couch, slightly citrusy Sleep 2000 is comparatively benign. That's classified information. No, I got a discount on it. It's one of the perks of being a gun writer. Let's see. It's a good question, Jared. You always have good questions. I honestly don't know. Bill Myers, who's asking questions, maybe he can put something in the comments. So I have not tested an XTR3 because I want to test an illuminated version. And I've spent a lot of time with the Striker. I've seen the XTR3. It looks like a really nice scope. And the Striker 4.5 to 30 by 56 and XTR3 5.5 to 30 by 56. They're right there in about the same price range, going after the same dollar. And both seem to be very competent scopes. And until I do a proper serious evaluation of the XTR3, I really don't know. The Striker to me is a known entity. I've seen a few. I've used a couple quite a bit. I know quite a few people who bought them at my recommendation and used them, so I have a lot of faith in the product. With Burris XTR3, I have a lot of faith in the company. I know a lot of people at Burris, and I like them. But the XTR3 is a product, I just haven't seen enough mileage. Now, a good number of people that I know have had them and used them, and they're happy with them. So I'm confident that it's a really solid design. But how exactly it stacks up, I cannot tell you until I spend some time with it. When I started talking about optics 15, 20 years ago, and was it probably close to 20 years ago, the market was small enough where I could get my hands on most things and have a solid opinion about most things on the market. It's gotten so big that I no longer can. So I have to be very, very careful with things that I haven't seen. There's enough variety. With XTR3, I have a lot of secondary information about it being very, very good, but not enough primary, meaning me looking at it information about the scope. I expect it to be very good. Where exactly it is, I'm going to look at it soon. I hope you're right. I hope she moves to DC. I hope she stays there. Lunatic. Let's see. What Texan? This one. Let's see, can you guys? Yes, there you go. So this guy, I figured if you go big bore, go big. So I got a 50 cal, just because I always wanted to have a 50 cal and I didn't want to mess with a 50 BMG. So that's going to be my 50 cal. So I got that off of the bucket list and I'm golden. It's going to be interesting to scope, but I need to decide what scope to put on this thing. Ooh. Yeah, those are nice. Those are pretty. I haven't looked at the old lever guns too much. I have a couple lever guns. I have a Henry 22, and I have a Browning a takedown in 300 WSM. That's kind of my these days primary hunting rifle. Really like that that gun. I've been looking into some higher end. Some higher end lever guns, like from Bighorn Armory, something like that. A buddy of mine has one. It's just the craftsmanship is just incredible. So I'm seriously thinking about it. Yeah, no, don't worry about it. MSRP is $1,250, and they go for, I think, close to that, a little less, but I think they go for about $1,100 typically, or thereabouts. And I didn't think you sounded rude. I was trying to be funny. Oh, thank you, Bill. Striker's a good scope. Yeah, I've been getting more and more into air guns. Because of cheap practice, and well, the big bore ones are not, but the conventional ones are quiet, so it is fairly simple to practice. There is no recoil. It's good to teach kids with, and I enjoy shooting them quite a lot more than I thought I would. And given all the different restrictions that are coming down the pipe, I think everybody should own a few air guns. It's one of the reasons you see me talking about them, and like I said, the next live cast is going to be on big bore air guns, again with Tyler Patner. There's nothing really wrong with coconut oil, but it does kind of harden at low temperatures. When I lived in California, it didn't matter, but here in New Mexico, it does get a little cold, like it snowed today, so I have to pay a little bit more attention to the thermal stuff. Yeah, for the big bore air guns, I think you say when I was looking it up, I think they're able to get 5 or 6 full power shots off of one tank. And then you have to recharge it. I have a small compressor that I can run off of my car if need be, so it's not that difficult. So there's just something really cool about a 50 caliber air gun, like a 300 grain thing going down 800 foot per second out of freaking air gun with built-in effectively suppressor moderator that you don't have to talk to ATF about. It's really cool. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's look. So there are a lot of different options, and for me, I have a fair number of guns and I shoot a fair bit, but I don't know, not like I use all many cleaning supplies. So the money savings from using some other conventional cleaner really doesn't mean anything. My ARs, I barely clean, wipe the barrel sometimes. AKs, I don't bother. Precision guns, I'm more careful with, but they don't foul up all that much. My handguns, I clean until only when they're too dirty to look at. I mean, so I clean what I need to clean and I ignore what I can ignore, right? So it's easier for me to just buy a couple of things, and I buy a bunch of small bottles, shove them in every range bag, gun case, and all that sort of stuff, and I always have something. They're already prepackaged for me, so I don't need to worry about it. if for shooting schools or places that do a lot of cleaning and shooting ranges and all that, yeah, it starts making a difference because all this stuff adds up. For me, if it saves me a little time, it's totally worth it. I don't know. So, in principle, the ballistics of this, I really don't know, right? So it has, in terms of energy out of the barrel, it's kind of like 45 ACP approximately. And the bullet is not a whole lot more aerodynamic than that, some soft lead slug. So I really don't know. I expect it's going to be dropping quite a bit. But I shoot subsonic stuff fairly far out. So it's going to be really interesting to try to shoot something as archaic as a 50 cal air gun in terms of trajectory pretty far out. So I really don't know. That's a big part of the fun, right? To try to figure out how far I can hit something with this thing. Once it gets here, it should be here in a couple of days. Once it gets here, I'll make it out to the range. I'll let you know. I'll let you know what I think. Excuse me. Yeah, in Europe, where firearm restrictions are more significant, and airgun restrictions are also pretty significant. It is you see a lot of people do amazing things with air guns. So my favorite air gun to date has been I have an FX Dreamline in 25 caliber. I get, 40, 50 shots per fill, and it's shooting 1-inch groups at 100 yards. Now, wind moves it more. It shoots pellets, right? So wind moves it more, and it's pretty challenging. But that gun is freakishly accurate. But there is no wind. It's one hole. Has an amazing trigger, and it has AR furniture. Right? So I have an AR stock and a grip on it. So a lot of the training even transfers to shooting ARs or chassis type bolt guns. That's one of the. I got into air guns originally as training for firearms, but it's a world unto its own, and I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, so that's Derek, who was on earlier. Thank you, Derek. It was really nice of you to chime in, and yeah, always welcome to any of the live guests I do. I like having guests. It's nice to have a discussion. Yeah, I've seen that one, and the FX I have also has a magazine, and it's a side toggle action. The next air gun I get is going to be actually a Russian-made gun called Leshy 2. That one is a semi-automatic air gun, and it's actually accurate. Shoot me an email, and I'll tell you all about it. But they're kind of hard to get, so I'm trying to convince the guy to import them that I absolutely must have one. That's a really cool air gun. Yeah, I think I'm not terribly concerned about Nazis in Europe just yet. I think Europe has other problems. Europe's biggest problem for now is the Muslim invasion, and I don't see them doing anything about it. So we'll see. Some people say Western Europe's already lost. Others think there's going to be, the pendulum is going to swing the other way. I don't know enough to have a strong opinion one way or the other. Personally, I do have a suspicion that at some point Germans figure out how good they are at killing people and resolve this problem. But then they might not stop there. So maybe you're right. I don't know. I don't think they'll be using air guns, though. I'm pretty confident of that. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. About 2.5 hours. That's pretty good. If you have any more questions, anything else you want me to bring up or cover, now's a good time. I'll be happy to. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes, and if no one has anything, I'll call it a night. And until the next time. So the next live cast is likely going to be 21st or 22nd of December. And like I said, that's going to be on big boy air guns. Oh, Bill. Back to politics. Oh, boy. I don't know, Bill. I mean, Trump's last remaining hopes, I think, ride on this Texan lawsuit. And I do not know if the Supreme Court is going to pick it up or not. And I don't have a good prediction. It's one of those things where I really don't know. I haven't looked at the merits of the case, and I'm not a lawyer, so even if I have, it doesn't mean that much. I talked about, that was politics was kind of find politics very interesting, but I try to look at long-term problems more than short-term ones. For the long-term stuff, weirdly, for the short-term things, I don't know which way what's going to go. For the long-term stuff, we can look at trends and have more to work with, more to think about. Short-term stuff, I really just don't know. I wish I had something. I have no clue. Hey, thanks for chiming in, man. It's you missed a lot, but I think it's going to be okay. And it's pre-recorded, but if you have any questions, anything troubles you, that's within my range. Now's the time. Thank you for chiming in, Joe. Leupold new reticle has been released already. It's called PR2. It looks a very decent reticle. There are some pictures of Sniper's Hide. And they were already selling the Mark V 5 to 25 by 56 scopes with it. I'm going to shoot an email to Leupold guys, see if they have one I can borrow for a little bit. Based on the pictures, I like the reticle. I think it's an intelligent design. It's style-wise, it's a little bit... What is it like? So it's based around 0.25 milliradian base measurement, not 0.2. So Leupold kind of doing like their own thing, which is okay, I guess. Leupold can afford to do it. And otherwise, it's a nice tree reticle, a little bit like the JVCR reticle from US Optics. A little more information than JVCR, but it's a nice design. I think it will do well for them. And they'll have a non-tree version called the PR1. So they're already talking about them. PR2 is out officially. If that's what you're interested in, the Leupold website has a little bit on it. I hope you're right, Bill, but I really don't know. Doug, are you there? While I'm talking, you're digging in your safe, finding new guns that you haven't seen before. Are you sure it's your safe? Yeah, it's these Canadiana Tika T3x Arctic looks really appealing to me. I really want one. Before I buy a new gun, I need to buy a new safe, and I just bought a safe and it's already full. So I don't know. I need to stop getting guns for a little bit. Let's see. What else we got? Okay. You're talking about the Arctic or the Sporter? Yeah, I never doubted that you'd volunteer to be very, very helpful, Joe. I think I'll be able to resolve that. But thank you for your kind offer of help. Everybody's so kind and well-meaning these days. The Arctic, yeah. Arctic is a really nice gun. In case anybody's wondering, this is not whiskey. This is iced tea. Red. All the Arctics had this laminated stock that was like orange, gray, and black, and that kind of stuff. Red is odd. Maybe they had a version of that. I don't know. So yes, I actually have a spreadsheet where I had to list all of them because otherwise I can't remember. But I'm not going to say how many guns I have on air in case somebody's watching who shouldn't be. I'm not going to say how much ammo I have either before you get any bright ideas. See, Joe, what you started? Now everybody's trying to be helpful. Freaking wise guys. Can't trust anyone. Okay, Bill, get in the car, drive south for about 6.5 hours. I'll show you the guns I have. Thank you for chiming in, Jared. Really appreciate it. It's 2.5 hours of your life, so I do appreciate it more than you can imagine. I do not buy overpriced ammo these days, and I'm not even close to having to shoot my reserve. There's other stuff. I shoot a lot of military surplus stuff, and in years back when surplus ammo was quite cheap, I bought it a little bit here and there. Jokers. All right, where were we? 2:33. Okay, it's 10:30 here. I'll pretend that I have a life, and I'm gonna go turn in and go to sleep. If you have any more questions, I have celiac disease, so don't bring beer. We all do. I have a pellet jack for the ammo. To be able to use a pellet jack for the ammo, you still have to get past the defensive perimeter. Huh. So how do you get an instant collection? I want to know. I'd like an instant collection. Good night, Bill. Thank you for chiming in. So I'm gonna give Doug a couple of minutes to explain to me how he got an instant collection, and then I'm gonna close shop for tonight. Oh, okay. That's not the best way to get an instant collection. But that is a good collection. Good night, sir. Thank you for chiming in and spending your time with us. All right. More iced tea, and then I can close up. All right. Thank you all. Still a few people on. Thank you all for watching, guys, and for listening. Thank you for good questions. I am gonna... My intention, so my interest in politics is comparatively consistent, but my willingness to talk about it is sort of every 2 years as we get close to a major election. I am not a political animal. I'm an optics guy and a gun guy and a knife guy and all that. So my intention as we go forward to not touch on the political stuff as much as I have in the last few months because of the election. And I will be talking a lot more about different rifle scopes I'm looking at, different projects and things like that. I am thinking, and you guys let me know if that's interesting, I'm thinking about talking a little bit more about Soviet history because I don't think we talk about it enough. We know a lot from that. We know a lot about the things we should not be doing, so maybe that's something I should touch on. But aside from that, I'm going to go back into the gun and optics world to a significant degree. Right? Thank you all. Good night. And hopefully I'll see you during the next live cast. So you'll see me when I talk about big boy air guns. Take care, y'all.